Hi there, this is Elise Brenden, your marketing mentor. And this is the podcast for you if and only if you are ready to leave the feast or famine syndrome behind, and I mean for good. Should you send a note when you invite someone to connect on LinkedIn? And what about when they accept your connection? And at what point should you reach out to a new connection? And what the heck should you say? Should you ask for a meeting or send them a joke? And how effective is commenting or on LinkedIn? And there are just so many questions. These are just a few of the questions answered by this week's guest, Brenden Delarua, a growth marketing strategist. I worked with Brenden when he was a wee one, still in college, studying marketing, but not learning what he really wanted to know. And this was before I even named my framework, the Simplest Marketing Plan. But I was already teaching the three tools: outreach, networking, and content marketing. So it was a thrill to hear how Brenden has taken what he learned and run with it, turning it into a thriving business 10 years later. So listen and learn. All right, Brenden, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Elise. This is a dream come true.
Awesome. Well, tell the people who you are, and then I'll kind of tee it up.
Yeah, I'm Brenden Delarua. I'm co-founder at Stella Incrementality, which is a marketing technology company. I'm also a consultant. I go under the DBA of Growth Marketing Machines, where I help run paid media programs for up-and-coming e-commerce brands.
All right. And so I'm going to ask you to just tell a little of the history of how we met and what the foundation was, and then where you went with it. But first, and maybe this will come out as you're doing that, but my listeners, as you know, are self-employed, creative professionals, lots of copywriters and designers and marketers and photographers. And I'm not sure they understand what you just said you do with Stella. So if you would just put it in layman's terms, and then we'll go back in time.
Sure, yeah. I'm not even sure if I know what I do at Stella. I like to pretend I say big words, and it confuses people, so they don't ask questions. But now you called me out on my bluff.
All right, well, tell us in plain language then what you do.
Yeah, so incremental, that word, which is a real word, incrementality, does not seem to be
not a real word.
not in the dictionary. If you type it into an email, it'll have the line under it that says it's not a real word. But incremental means an additional, right? Like a sale that would not have happened without some sort of intervention. So like an incremental sale is like an additional sale that would not have happened. So incrementality is measuring those incremental sales. How you do that in paid media is ultimately turning off ads. So what we do at Stella is we help brands figure out regions, like specific regions, to just turn off ads in. And then we start to monitor their source of truth, so revenue. So basically, if we turn off Meta, how much revenue do we lose? If we think Meta is driving X when it comes to our revenue, and we turn off Meta and we see no drop in sales, then we know most of our spend on Meta is wasted. So that's like a very high level version of what incrementality is. It's becoming a big buzzword. A lot of people are talking about it, and a lot of marketing leaders are leaning into it.
Good. That's definitely clearer. And one thought I had as you were defining incrementality is that it's also seems to be about baby steps somehow. Would you say that's true?
I guess it depends, right? It's it's basically data science, right? And then when marketers get into data science, it gets a little weird because there's so much nuance, so many things I've learned just since starting Stella, working with my co-founder Vinny, who is a data scientist. There's just so much nuance of like what's an actually good model or not. But yeah, I guess there are baby steps of leaning into incrementality and then getting further into the weeds and figuring out how to use it. The end goal is just identifying what's causing new revenue to happen
Mhm.
and then figuring out where to invest to get more incremental revenue to happen. That's ultimately the premise of it. That's why the larger companies have been leaning into incrementality testing because there's this big misconception about multi-touch attribution or just dashboards where everything is click based. So they need a UTM to be able to, a urchin tracking module, basically the URL that tells you where the click came from.
We call it a fancy link here over at Marketing Mentor.
A fancy link. Okay. Yeah. So you need a lot of fancy links that tell you where things come from. But the issue with that is that's showing you correlation. Someone saw an ad or clicked an ad and then later converted, but it doesn't tell you what caused an ad to convert. So what you end up
Mm.
getting, especially on a larger scale, is a lot of like misattributed conversions, like a lot of branded search or retargeting or sales that would have happened regardless of your media spend. And as a marketer held to a ROAS or return on ad spend goal, you're kind of incentivized to lean into higher ROAS campaigns, which sometimes are actually bleeding the company dry and you don't even know
Mm.
it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Now, all right, so that's enough about
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
Now, forgive me for this question, but I feel like it's relevant. Brenden, how old are you?
I'm 29.
Okay, good. Excellent. And when we met, I don't remember how long ago it was, but you will, hopefully. And you were still in school, I think, studying marketing, but you're not a data scientist, right?
I mean, not by title, but I think I probably know a lot more about data science than I thought I ever would.
Hmm. So I guess my point is more, it's not what you studied. So go back there, start with what you studied and how we met, and then bring us
Yeah,
to the present.
yeah. I went to college in Tampa for marketing, and I think it's pretty standard with most colleges. Like the first year or two, you're in a bunch of like classes that have nothing to do with your major. But like I had one or two marketing classes in my first 2 years of college, and I just at the same time I was reading so many books from like Barnes and Noble or whatever I could get from eBay. So I was reading a lot of marketing books, but then the college classes like I felt like were so dated at the time where I was like I feel like the marketing they were teaching was almost more of like a data analyst, like observing all this like ethnography data or census data. That was kind of what they were teaching in marketing. And I was like, this is not what I want. Like, this is not what I want to learn about. I feel like this isn't going to help me. So I just Googled, I believe I was 19 when you and me met, Elise, but I
Wow.
Googled like marketing mentor because I wanted a marketing mentor that actually has done what I want to do and I want to learn from. And then I found you. I reached out, and I don't remember if I said it or if you said it in your reply email, but you're like, I don't normally do that, like talk to a student.
Hmm.
But happy to have calls. And then you and me started meeting weekly. And oh my God, I'm so appreciative of it. It taught me way more, and I still use the insights. Like it taught me way more than like my entire college education did.
That's amazing, actually. And, I'm thrilled that was the case. I don't remember saying that to you, although it was definitely true that I was not marketing myself to students, but I'm always open to whoever is gung ho to learn and just take the ball and run with it. And that's what you did. And that's what always makes me very gratified and satisfied. So I'm just thrilled. Part of the reason I asked you to be on the podcast. And as I said, earlier before we started recording, I have a feeling this could be the first of many because you've come so far since we met and you've implemented what I don't think at that point even I called the simplest marketing plan, but in a recent LinkedIn post that you put out there and that I saw, you talked about hitting 10,000 followers on LinkedIn by using the tools of the simplest marketing plan. So I thought, again, kind of give me, I do want to hear the history and what you learned got you to Stella. But then let's also talk about how to increase followers on LinkedIn, because I think my readers would like my listeners would love to know about that.
Yeah, I think the whole content networking and outreach, like it's so simple, like, and also that's why it's called the simplest marketing plan. But like the more I think about it, the more it will transcend time. Like even when AI takes over or wherever the world will be in 20 years from now, like if you're growing any type of business or following or even just your own personal brand, it is all coming around to like networking, content, and outreach in whatever form that you want. So I have a specific strategy that I use on LinkedIn specifically, but I mean, I've also my TikTok following is 6 times what I have on LinkedIn, but I still
Wow.
did the same thing over there.
Hmm.
But I think like when you and me started talking, Elise, I was a broke college kid. I was like negative money. I was like into a lot of debt from college, and you were the one that recommended I look into BNI, Business Networking International. And I went to my first one. I think I was like 19. I couldn't even like drink yet. Everyone wanted to go out for like drinks or whatever, like for social gatherings. And I always had to be like, yeah, maybe later. Like, like I had to pretend I wasn't as young as I was.
Mm.
But I went to my first one, and that's where I don't know. I won't say her name on the podcast, but I don't know if you remember that first client I got in health
Vaguely.
insurance.
Yeah, yeah.
But I went to the one in-person networking event. This was before the pandemic, and later that day, I signed a social media management client for $1,000 a month or something like that. It was
Mhm.
insane. And then I just kept going, and that was a big source of referrals. But that was the networking, right? And then when it came to like outreach, I was a part of a lot of local Tampa Bay Facebook groups where people would ask for, can someone build a website? Does anyone know an SEO guy? Can someone run ads for me? And I would be the first one into those comment sections, or I'd have people recommending me as well. So that was like the outreach. And then my content, I was posting a lot of blogs back then and trying to post content like on LinkedIn and and everywhere else, but nothing was really successful for a while. It took me a while to find my voice, but I was kind of doing all three of them. And yeah, basically, it started my marketing career, just the simple marketing plan.
Hmm. And just if you can remember, I'm not sure I do, like what exactly were you offering in terms of services at that point? Because I think what's relevant here and that I see a lot of people struggling with is not knowing who they are and what they're offering, and that prevents them from going out there and talking to people about what the people need. And I feel like what I do remember is that it wasn't all that clear exactly what you were offering, but you would do what people needed help with. And then that is, I imagine, how you got to Stella. So give us that little path.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's I had no idea what I was selling. I think I would joke to you. I was like, if a client asked me to mow their lawn, I would do it. Like I had no bounds when it came to like because then I started getting some clients, and that was my first introduction of working with clients and a lot of business owners, how smart they can be. A lot of them are kooky. And I would get calls from my clients at like midnight because they had an idea, and I would answer it, and I'm stressing out. I was like a constant ball of anxiety. Yeah, when I went to the first networking event, I didn't know. I knew I wanted to offer marketing services, but I didn't know exactly what it was. So the first contract was social media management for a healthcare or
Mhm.
a health insurance provider, which like how many health insurance providers do you follow on Instagram? It's not a very easy job. She was awesome. She believed in me. That was great. And I just from previous experience when in high school for little projects of mine, I'd build websites. So then eventually people needed websites. So I would start building websites for people. Word got around that I was charging like hardly anything to build a website, like $300 for a website,
Mm.
and I could turn it around in 48 hours. So then I got a lot of referrals that way. And then eventually people were like, okay, I have a website. What do we do now with this? Also, it's funny to think of a business owner not understanding what a website is, but
Mhm.
what do we
Mhm.
do with it now? I'm like, well, I guess we can get people to the website. And that's when I started getting into paid ads. So like
Mhm.
running ads on Meta and Google and working with tiny, tiny budgets, like $5 a day, $10 a day type budgets back then.
Hmm.
Which now thinking of all the clients I've worked with since then, like I've worked with such larger budgets with bigger teams and accounts and brands that everyone recognizes.
Hmm.
Yeah, but that's how it started. And then what I liked about paid ads was it was the easiest way to prove value and how much you're worth, at least to a client. If you're doing social media management, you
Mm.
make a post, maybe it gets like 100 likes, and you're trying to show that to the client as like a success, but then they say, how many people did bought from us from this
Right.
post, and it's hard to quantify. But when
Hmm.
I'm running ads and we're spending $20 a day on ads and I'm returning back a trackable $100 a day in revenue or however it breaks out, it's like very easy to be like, oh, okay, this is working. And I feel confident with this
Hmm.
guy running my ads for me because it's working. So that was like the first, like dip my toe into it and realized like, oh, this is what I want to do.
Hmm. And it took time, right? I mean, that's the thing I want everyone to understand. As much as we want it to go fast, it doesn't.
Yeah, I think that whole process took like 2 years for me to find advertising. And then
Hmm.
I stepped away from freelancing for a while to work
Hmm.
at an agency in Tampa that my whole job was just advertising. So I got
Hmm.
exposed to a lot of larger accounts and running bigger budgets on all social media platforms or programmatic CTV. We did a lot of different advertising things. And I love that job. And I didn't have to worry about the stress of like inconsistent income from being a
Hmm.
freelancer. I had health insurance, which was great, and I didn't have to go to networking events anymore, which it was always a net positive networking events, but always very stressful or I was
Hmm.
anxious to go talk to people.
Hmm. And so, and I remember actually when you took that job, I think you said something like, I just can't deal with this self employment thing. Is that how you felt?
Yeah, I think what it was there's some months I made a decent chunk of money, at least for back then. I won't say like how much money like
Yeah,
was it a
that's
good
fine.
month, but I had
Hmm.
two months back to back 1 year that were both very good for me. And I think at this time I was like 21, and it was like a decent amount of money, at least back then. And then I remember on that December, so Christmas, I made $300 total.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, like it was just, even though I had money from the months before and I could save it, and it started making me think every check I got, I need this to last until the day I die. Like if I get a $500 payment, like this is my retirement. I have to figure out how to live on $500 for the rest of my life. So it was very like I didn't like the fluctuations. It was like, okay, if this money isn't coming in all the time, like that's so for someone like me, it just deals with just a natural level of anxiety. I was like, this is scary. I have bills to pay. At the time I got engaged, right, to
Hmm.
Bonnie.
Hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, I make $300 in a month. Like that is crazy. But it was just like one example of like, if I got a job, I would have consistent income, and that might be what I want. And I know a lot of freelancers deal with that too, of like this
Yeah.
like inconsistency, at least when they're first starting. I think now that I'm working for myself again, I've found a lot of consistency,
Hmm.
which is much better.
And so the part where you were working for the agency, and then how did you build Stella? Like, where did Stella come from? And
Sure.
why is it called Stella?
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, so Stella is named, my co-founder named Stella. It was a project he had for a long time, and it was named after the Marlon Brando
Hmm.
skit, uh, or I guess,
Movie.
boxcar named Desire. Yeah,
Yeah.
just I'm thinking of like the
Streetcar.
one
Hmm.
streetcar, right, right. Yeah, I'm too young. I'm 29.
You're too young.
Yeah. But that's where it came from. But I also like the idea of a personified
Mm.
SaaS platform. So
Hmm.
anytime I sell Stella, I talk about her, like Stella can
Mm.
do this and do that, which is cool. But yeah, so that agency I worked at in Tampa, I worked there for like 2.5 years, and then I moved on to an agency based out of LA for a while. And I got to be exposed to so much more than I ever thought. I worked with like
Hmm.
VC backed companies that were like post Series B, where they had an infinite budget to scale, and they didn't care if they were profitable or not. They just wanted to scale as much as they could for 2 years, then make an exit. Like
Mm-hmm.
those are very interesting clients to work with. And then that agency got acquired by a larger agency where I got to work with huge clients. Like I ran all the ads for one of the 2024 presidential campaigns. That was awesome
Wow.
experience. One of the largest movie studios that everyone loves. Like I got to run the trailers for that. It was just very cool. But what I started noticing, and I noticed it early on in my career, was basically what incrementality is. I just didn't know the name for it. For example, I worked with this like publicly traded pharmaceutical company. I ran their ads for them. And I looked at all their ad campaigns in Meta and Google and Criteo everywhere. And I looked at like the ROAS, the return on ad spend. And I was like, oh, let's just cut budget from the campaigns with like the lowest ads or ROAS and invest that money in the campaigns with the highest ROAS, which is kind of like the idea of media buying in general. And a lot of people are that's what they lean into, and that's what they're held to is a ROAS goal. And when I did that, profitability for the company increased dramatically because, as you can imagine, advertising is one of the biggest expenses for any company. So profit increased. So for a publicly traded company, that was a big deal, and I was very rewarded. I won an award of
Mm.
30 under 30
Mm-hmm.
performance marketers because of it. But then about 3 months later, we started to see this like decrease in like conversions and demand, and we're all like running around like what's happening? Like what did we change? And it's like not much has changed. But what ended up happening was we cut basically the top of funnel tactics or what I call early journey tactics, like
Mm-hmm.
tactics like CTV or display or audio or YouTube. Those tactics are hard to track because people don't really click on them.
Mm.
So they have a low ROAS and we're spending thousands a day on it. It's like, let's just turn off these. So I turned them off, but there's this like long customer journey or payback period that you start to see after like 3 months or so. So it's a longer lag time, but it is incremental, right? It's driving new customers into our pipeline that we would not have had without that money, but it's not something you can track in dashboards. So that's where the disconnect was. So that was like it must have been because I turned off all these campaigns that were actually working, but they show that they're not working. So I didn't know what the name of it was called. And then I've seen that time and time again running these ad campaigns or building out QBR decks, like strategy decks, where it's like, we need to invest in these like top of funnel tactics, or we need to really figure out if we turned off Meta or Google, like how much money do we still make from it? So I learned about incrementality firsthand from running these like paid media or go to market programs for these larger companies. And then I started realizing it's called incrementality. And then I found some competitors of Stella now in the space, like that offer ways to measure incrementality. So that was like my first, how I got into incrementality, where it came to be, where I found the problem because I lived
Mm-hmm.
the problem.
Mm-hmm. And that's really what I want to emphasize is finding the problem, living the problem. I love that phrase. And then, like, well, let me try to solve this problem. It sounds like, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's a real problem everyone has, even if they know it or not. And that's something that we're finding a lot. Like right now, I get on calls with like really cool brands that like I've admired for years, and like the marketing leaders at those brands that like I look up to, and they're pretty open with me, but they'll be like, we keep hearing everyone talk about incrementality. We have no idea what it is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but we are demoing your product to see what it is and how it helps us. And then I'll get questions on those calls where they can't really wrap their brain around how is this different from like a multi-touch attribution tool. And I have to explain to them like multi-touch measures correlation, not causation. And Stella and other incrementality vendors measure causation, what's causing sales to happen.
I guess I want to use that maybe as a way to connect to this other topic about building followers and connections on LinkedIn because you said, let's see if I can bring it back. Oh, my thought as you're talking is if they don't know that, if they don't understand the concept, let's say, of, in this case, incrementality, then your marketing needs to educate them. And that is what usually happens through content, but I would think through all of the tools. So tell me how you are educating your market through content marketing and also how people can build their LinkedIn following.
Yeah. So, like I said, I've lived this, so I know the value prop, or I know the pain points, right? But I do a lot of psychographic work, which is also a term I believe I learned from you, Elise, a long time ago. I was like describing psychographics, and I didn't have a word for it, and you're like, I think that's called psychographics, and I'm like,
Mhm.
no, it's not. No, it's not. And I looked it up, and I'm like, oh yeah, she's right. She's always right.
That's
Um,
funny.
so basically, I write LinkedIn posts myself. I try to be as human as possible. I think
Mm.
one with AI, a lot of people are using AI on LinkedIn, and they all the posts kind of blend together. And again, LinkedIn is like a social networking platform, but more of like for business professionals. So everyone is just glorifying everything.
Mm.
Everyone is just patting themselves on the back, saying how good they are. Oh, this next opportunity. It's like very hard to go through LinkedIn, but the value prop, or the where everyone zigs, we zag kind of thing, is like the more human you are and talk about a failure or like a learning experience, or just like those posts seem to do really well
Mm.
on LinkedIn. So I just try to be as human as possible. Like sometimes I will intentionally curse on LinkedIn because a lot of people don't do it. Um, or yeah, however it works, I'll have improper grammar. I'll just try to write the way I speak.
Mhm.
But yeah, the hook is the most important part of a post on LinkedIn, because then you have the see more button, and people need to click that see more button for them to read the post. So the hooks that I try to write are very specific and relevant to the pain point that my ICP, my ideal customer profile, has. So they might not know what incrementality is. So that's where I need to educate them. But the first line will be something that they do know. Like for example, my ICP is marketing leaders, right? But most marketing leaders, when you're running ads on Meta or Google, the revenue you're seeing in there, the ROAS, is usually Shopify ROAS, because that's what it's connected to.
Mm.
But Meta and Google have a large halo effect on Amazon sales, but that is not being accounted for in that marketing leaders' dashboards, right? Or what they're being held to as a standard. And what I've come to find throughout my own experience and just talking and working with marketing leaders, especially CMOs, is that the CFO is like the big scary dog. I don't know, in the pound or whatever. Like CMOs are terrified of CFOs, it seems, in the most case. CFOs are like needing them to prove that the budget that they've given them is causing sales to happen. And that's exactly where incrementality comes in. But basically, I'll start off with a hook around like,
Here's the one from the post that I was talking about before. You wrote, I just hit 10,000 followers here on LinkedIn. Here's exactly how you can too. And then you have a pointing down arrow. And I imagine that's what you're calling the hook.
exactly. Yep. So I say my own personal experience in the first line, and then the people reading anything is, what's in it for me. So that's
Hmm.
why I say this is how you can too, rather than like here's how I did it. I said
Hmm.
here's how you can too.
Hmm. Hmm. And actually, let
Exactly.
me just stop there for a second because I feel like that small detail is huge. And I've actually this week, for some reason, been correcting a lot of people on that small detail, using the word you instead of I. It is super small, and we are wired to think from the I point of view, but marketing is all about you. And so you have to use the word you. And so, I don't know, say whatever you want about that, but how do you think about it? And I don't know, how else can people remember to use you instead of I?
I think you're right. I did used to write posts like specifically using you language.
Hmm.
But what I will do before I write a post, or just like I'll go through LinkedIn and look at what I call LinkedIn viral posts. So any post on LinkedIn on my feed that has over 100 likes
Hmm.
from other people, and I try to look at like how long is their post, what's the structure, what are they talking about, and what I started noticing was personal. So like saying I like stories. So like when you, instead of trying to say like this is why marketing teams always fail, or you say like, I did something and I failed, so that is saying the I thing. But
Hmm.
then the posts that actually do well are the ones where if you utilize the I statement, to talk about your own personal experience, but then make sure with throughout the post you are translating what does this mean for you, the viewer,
Right.
like give it an insight. So that's why I actually intentionally, that first line of that post you read was I hit
Mm-hmm.
10,000. And then it was like, here's how you can too. So I'm kind of hitting both of them, like
Yep.
showing my personal experience. I've done it. And now this is exactly how you can too. But yeah, the hook is the most important part of a post because it gets people to read it. But the idea is, to your point, Elise, I'll start off with a hook that everyone, or at least my ICP, can resonate with or instill a little bit of FOMO. Like, you're being held to a ROAS goal, but your CFO is not even looking at the halo effects on Amazon. Like that might be
Mm-hmm.
a hook that I would use, and then
Mm-hmm.
explain that Meta has a halo effect on Amazon. Here's how you measure it. You use a tool like Stella, so it all kind of filters back into Stella. But it
Mm-hmm.
is valuable content even if you don't use Stella.
Mm-hmm.
That's always been my goal. Is the ones that provide the most value are the ones that get shared around internally at organizations. Is what I've heard from larger organizations that reach out to me and say, like, we share your post all the time.
Nice. All right. So we're going to have to wrap up soon. Again, I'm sure we'll talk again because there's a lot you have to share clearly. But I do want to follow through on the promise that I posed at the beginning of
Yeah, yeah.
how do you hit 10,000 followers? So, in a nutshell, tell us.
Yeah, let's do it. So, first is content, what we just spoke about,
Mm-hmm.
where ultimately we need to provide value for our specific ICP. If you have not lived their pain, it's going to be much harder for you, but it's not impossible, right? Like, use AI like Claude or ChatGPT or Perplexity and work through what are the psychographics of my ICP? What keeps them up at night? Apart from business or their professional life, like what do they want most in their personal life? Is my ICP usually parents? Are they, how old are they? Do they want a promotion? Do they just want to look good to their CFO? Like those are the types of questions. Like what's their deepest fear? What's their deepest desire? Those are the things that should be interwoven into your content. So when you're speaking or typing your posts, people read it and they're like, wow, this guy's really speaking to me. Even though, I'm not writing it with any one person in
Mm-hmm.
mind. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my main thing with content. All content does not need to be pointing back to your offer.
Mm-hmm.
If people like you, they'll click on your page, they'll follow you, they'll see what you're offering. But as long as your posts are valuable and people can leave after reading that post with value, that is the main important part of content because that gets shared around, and then your face and name gets shared around more. The second part is networking. So when it comes to LinkedIn, what I call networking is reaching out to the right people. So for me as a marketer, there's some brands that I like. For example, like Graza olive oil, I like them a lot. They've reached out to us to work with Stella, which is really cool. But like I would have, the idea is like, okay, I like this brand Graza. I'm going to connect with their CMO. And usually CMOs are so busy, they're probably, even though they might be the end decision maker, they're probably not the ones you're going to talk to. So then I'll also connect with the VP of marketing. I'll also connect with the director of marketing, all at Graza. So like all like the director level, manager level, all on the marketing side. So I'll connect with the right people. I will not send a message with my connection. I'll just
Mm-hmm.
connect directly. If they accept, they accept. If they don't, they don't. And then I just continue posting content. I'm actually not reaching out to them. I post content so they can see my face. They can see my content and potentially share it internally. I'm growing trust. Elise taught me marketing is all about trust.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I'm doing. I'm not just because, you accept a connection request from someone on LinkedIn, they message you immediately asking you to buy something, you immediately lose trust in that person. So I do not reach out immediately. After maybe 2 or 3 months of consistently posting and connecting with the right people, that is when I'll start doing the outreach. So when I do outreach, none of it's automated. I do it myself. It takes longer, but it has much higher response rates where I will reach out to people either offering them a free month of using my platform, an audit, or if they post themselves, I will actually read their content and either DM them a joke about their content or just something lighthearted. I'm never asking for anything in my outreach. So I'm growing these social relationships where, your network is your net worth kind of thing. And eventually either I get referrals or those people want to use Stella. But the idea is the whole time I'm building a following of the people that could potentially be my ICP, either now or in the future.
And what about commenting, Brenden?
Commenting's huge. So there's a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think a lot of the Gen Zers memed that book a little bit. Because there's some, anyways, I really like that book. And one of the things is saying like the best way to get someone to care about you is to show you care about them. So having authentic, like I've met so many people online on LinkedIn by commenting on their post and a real authentic comment. And then they will DM me later and just be like, hey, like, I love your stuff too. Like, thanks for commenting. And then like we grow a relationship. So commenting and engaging with other people's posts, sharing, showing that you care about the other people, it's not just one-sided, actually earns you so much more trust as well. And then there's, when you comment on someone's post, you get more visibility from their followers that are reading their comments. They start seeing your face. So it's a win-win by engaging with other people.
Love it. All right. Last question for you. Since you brought up AI, I'm curious how you see AI infiltrating your world and where's the white space, as I've been calling it lately, and the opportunity for people to work within this world of AI.
Yeah, I've been taking plumbing classes to try to make sure I'm ready for the AI takeover until they make robot plumbers. So yeah, this is a big conversation we're having internally at Stella. But what we think is like, there's some things we can't fight, right? I don't know if we will be able to build like a Claude or a GPT competitor, right? And OpenAI and Claude or Anthropic, they're building screwdrivers. They're building tools to help people build things themselves. They won't specifically build Stella, but they are providing the tools to help you build a Stella.
Mm-hmm.
So what becomes the moat is the data then that we collect. So we've been around for 2.5 years. We have tons of data on what's incremental, what's not incremental, and then we'll have your data as well. So how we think about it is if people are moving to utilizing AI more and more, we don't want to fight that. We want to move towards that and figure out what is the additional value prop of Stella. We believe Stella won't have a UI at some point in the future, and Stella will be more of an app that you call into your AI that you're using, however you use it. All your data lives in Stella. All of the benchmark data lives in Stella. So you can make more informed decisions when you're optimizing your ad campaigns in Claude, using Stella's causal data to know what's actually causing growth to happen. So that's kind of where we're thinking Stella will be. And there's a lot of AI companies that are just getting replaced by updates that AI is coming out with. But we think those companies have not built a moat themselves. They're just building features that AI can easily replicate. So that's where what we're thinking of. We are a little concerned about AI, but overall, we are optimistic about what AI will allow us to do, pessimistic about what AI will do to the environment, and we'll just see kind of how that works. But yeah, so we're looking at it at all different angles.
And actually, one more question: how's business?
Business is good, actually, on both fronts. My consulting side is doing good, especially from TikTok, which is interesting. A lot of people find me from TikTok, and I'm very surprised by the quality of people that are on TikTok. And then Stella is doing really good. We have an awesome value prop. So tons of people have been moving over to Stella just like from mainly my organic marketing, like hardly any ad spend, which is interesting. It's kind of ironic that like for companies like ours, we don't advertise as much. But yeah, it's really cool to see. Like I said, I get on calls weekly, even demo calls with brands I've always admired, like huge brands with huge budgets. And then, some of them will come on to Stella and we work with, and we get to see kind of how the meat is made in the back end and like get to work with their teams. Yeah, there's a specific company I've always admired called Tushy Bidets. I love that company. I've always have. And they reached out like a year and a half ago, and we've been working with them ever since. And I work really closely with their team. They're an amazing team. But it's just so cool to have that like full circle moment that like I built something that, a brand I really admire uses. We also work with like pop sockets and plunge. Those are some of the ones I'm allowed to say, but yeah, it's very cool. All the brands we get to work with at Stella, but it's growing. It's definitely growing.
Awesome. And do you have a bidet?
Every toilet I ever have sat on, at least I bring one in public. I bring a bidet everywhere. My house is stacked. I only have 2 bathrooms, but I have 4 bidets in this house.
Oh my God, you are too funny. Okay. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Brenden Delarua. I'm the founder of Stella and Growth Marketing Machines, or sorry, co-founder of Stella. I want to give a lot of credit to my co-founder, Vinny, who I wouldn't have been able to build any of this without Vinny. And on TikTok, if you guys are on TikTok, I'm Brenden Builds on TikTok. And if you're not on TikTok, I highly recommend. It's such a good platform with an algorithm where even if you have 0 followers, you can have a viral video. It's so impactful, and it has worked for my consulting side of my businesses where people are finding value in my content that I'm posting and they're reaching out. So Brenden Builds on TikTok, Brenden Delarua on LinkedIn, and then Stella is stellaheystella.com if you want to check out the incrementality testing platform.
Beautiful. And let's just specify that it's Brenden, Brenden, not A-N, right?
Correct. Yeah, my mom cursed me with a harder to spell name, so I've always had to do that. And my last name's terrible to spell as well. So hopefully people find me.
Yes, I'm sure they'll find you. And thank you so much, Brenden, for sharing. And we'll do this again. And say hi to Bonnie for me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Elise. It was great talking to you.
I just love Brendan's take on AI. It's not melodramatic. It's not overly pessimistic. I find him to be super realistic for a young one, especially. He is keeping his eyes open for how he needs to evolve and adapt as the unknown future approaches. Could you do that too? I think so. So if you want my help figuring all this out, I invite you to take advantage of my free mentoring session. You can find that and lots more resources, including my simplest marketing plan, at marketing-mentor.com. So enjoy, and I'll see you next time.